My cinema, I suppose, is quite, for the moment, it's been quite personal and quite autobiographical in the sense that my starting point for creating has been personal stories. I think I should add that my work is rooted in, I have a theatre background. So I studied theatre, I was trained as an actor, I worked as an actor for many years, and then I moved to Paris and went back to university to study up until doctorate, and then went into cinema. So the reason I'm telling you all that is because I think it's important in relation to what I do, and what I do is related to arts of the stage. I think it's clear when you see the work that there are theatre roots, there is a performance background. However, I work with actors and I work with narratives, so it's not only that. So what I've tried to do over the years is somehow incorporate that into my narration. So the way in telling my stories is quite particular in that sense. And then the social role of cinema, from my perspective anyway, is to tell stories, it's to provoke and challenge. There are enough, and when you see Frig, which is a very difficult, I think, movie, it's very provoking, when you see that, there are enough. I read an interview, for example, yesterday by Bruce, and he was saying in this interview that there are enough nice, well-behaved films out there. Obviously, in his line of work, films of Bruce LaBruce, they're very provoking, they're uncomfortable, and I think what I do is based on truth because it's based on personal stories and personal ideas. However, the idea for me of art is inevitably political, and art should provoke, and art should challenge, and I think that's what I do. I try to challenge myself. Frig itself is challenging for me as a director. It's quite violent. I hate violence. I'm a vegetarian. But however, what is important is the art. It's communicating. It's telling a piece. It's provoking people into change of some sort. Well, one thing is for sure that movies that talk about gender and homosexuality and such has moved on. Things have changed. In many countries we see now that gay marriage has starting to become, I'm not sure if the word's normal, but it's being integrated. So attitudes are definitely changing. However, when you start to look in other countries, I was just in Tel Aviv, and you had the programmer from Russia, the LGBT festival in Russia. They've had major problems. They still exist, which is a huge achievement. However, you read about Chechnya, you read about what's going on in Russia, you read about what's going on in Iran and Africa, and not only those places, much closer to home in France. I'm English, but I live in Paris, and in actual fact, we recently, in the last few years, went through gay marriage. However, prior to that, it was a huge thing in France. It was very violent, and not only physical violence, but emotionally, intellectual. On television, people telling us what we should think, what we should do with our bodies. So in one way, things have moved forward, but in another way, they're sort of still the same. And I think that relates to anything, not only gender. One always has to be vigilant. We could talk about abortion, we could talk about anything. I think these things are constant battles, and there's still a long way to go, and there's still many issues in many countries. And as I said, it's not always about looking to Africa and Russia and all these places. It's actually also about looking closer to home. And when I started to work on Frig, one of the ideas was in relation to, I wanted to express what I felt or what I was seeing in relation to Chechnya, that violence, that torture. We're talking about death, and this is why it's so frustrating that some people find my films too challenging, that they go too far. However, in reality, in real life, and not only in real life, in so many movies, violence is okay. Kids can watch violence, but if you put it in a different context, with different messages and different words, it suddenly becomes too provoking, it suddenly becomes too difficult to deal with, it suddenly becomes something that needs to be censored, and censorship is never good. Okay. The future project. So Frig is literally just starting out. So I've just been to Tel Aviv, and before that Spain. I have 2 movies in Rio, so I'm basically following Frig around and the other films. I was in Mexico twice last year, and a film commission in Mexico interested in doing a project in Cuernavaca. We proposed a movie. We're waiting to hear if that's going to go through or not. And then I'm also working on a movie in France, which is, I mean, I should just say that Frig marks the end of a chapter for me. So people wanted me to make a more traditional movie, a more traditional storyline, and in actual fact, for the moment, I've always done exactly what I wanted to do. So I've gone to the end of the message that I wanted to say, and then now I'm ready to attack something which is a little bit more conventional in its form, at least. So I've adapted a play by a British playwright called Joe Wharton, who was killed by his partner, actually. There has been a movie about it called Prick Up Your Ears, where I was trying to remember the name of the actor, I can't remember his name, but anyway. So I'm adapting this play with quite a well-known actress in France called Dominique Frig, who's the sister of Catherine Frig. And so that is in sort of preparation. I mean, I've already cast it. And then there's this movie in Mexico and then Frig. So they're basically the areas that I'm moving in. But as I said, I'm not going to a more traditional form because I should. I'm going because I come from theatre and I want to attack some drama. I want to attack actors acting. So for the next project, that's what I'm. The one in Mexico is also more of a traditional story, but I'm not becoming sort of watered down. It's just that I want to do a play. I want to deal with actors. Obviously, a screenplay, not theatre. Although I would like to do a theatre, and then possibly I'm in connection with a compositor in the States who has written many operas, and we may be doing a project opera film. So we'll see. But lots of stuff going on, so that's good.